Hello, I'm Dr. Shante and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are watching this video, you are at the start of a series. So for the next 6 videos, we are going to be talking about a framework that I created that is designed to change the way that you live your life. Many people are living their lives on high alert. Many people are frustrated and anxious and overwhelmed and angry. And a lot of that has to do with the year that we've just had, right? 2025 was a lot. 2025 was a lot of shifting sands. 2025 was a lot of outrage and turmoil and a lot of things that have happened with our leadership in the United States, and even most recently with a large release of files that just have revealed some reprehensible things that people at the very highest levels of leadership and power, that type of news is just soul crushing and abysmal. And I knew that it was going to be like that. Last year, I knew that it was going to be a lot. I knew it was going to be bad. I just didn't know how bad it was going to be. And I made a promise to myself. I said, I am not going to live my life on high alert. I cannot go through every day with breaking news, this just in, breaking news, because that can overwhelm you, that can paralyze you, that can make you feel so sad and demoralized that you feel hopeless and powerless. And that's kind of the point. That's kind of the point of all of that. So in this video, I'm going to show you what I did to insulate myself from all of that. I'm going to show you how I was able to, yes, be angry, yes, feel all the feelings, but also keep a really solid baseline of joy and thriving. And that is what we're going to be talking about in this video. It is a framework that I created called The Bar, THEBAR. And it is based on these 6 practices: talking, hobbies, experiences, body awareness, arts, and reading, as a way to regulate your nervous system, as a way to build community, as a way to ground yourself when it feels like the world is shaking. And it also was the bedrock for 6 questions that I used to frame my year. And one of those questions is, what rooms do I want to be in this year? So instead of setting goals this year like, oh, I want to lose this kind of weight or I want to save this kind of money, I didn't do any of that. I wrote down 6 questions that were rooted in that framework. And one of the questions is, what kind of rooms do I want to be in? And that is what we're going to be talking about today. Keep watching. You know, I got to be honest, I kind of like this filming from the couch motif. Like, it's so cozy. You know, it's giving Mr. Rogers. This sweater is giving very Mr. Rogers. Would you be my? Could you be my? Won't you be my neighbor? Will you be my neighbor? No, seriously. So when we talk about rooms, what kind of rooms do you want to be in? This is speaking about environment, but it's also talking about discourse. And so let's talk about the environmental piece for a minute. Sometimes you find yourself surrounded by people and energy that just drains your soul. I always say that good seeds cannot grow in bad soil. And some of you are good seeds, you know, you just want to keep it light, you want to keep it bright, you want to keep it honest, you want to show up with integrity, and you want to be grounded, and you want to be aware. And sometimes you find yourself in rooms that are so stuffy, that are so clouded, that are so jaded, that are so cynical, that are so misguided, and that can just slowly but surely just drain the light from your eyes. Okay, like it can really pack a punch. And so when you think about the kind of rooms that you want to be in, it's environmental, but it's also discursive. When we talk about discourse, we're talking about the words that we use to communicate with one another. We're talking about the norms, the expectations, okay, the values. And so when you think about not living your life on high alert, when you think about what is it going to take for me to live in a way that does not reflect the chaos that is around me, you have to think about where you are planting yourself and what is happening in those rooms. Like, there are just some places that don't promote, that don't stimulate the best and highest version of yourself. There are some places that actually put you in survival mode or put you on your guard. And this can be showing up to your family's house at Thanksgiving and Christmas. Oh, 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 did she go there? I sure did. Okay, I sure did, because you can't choose your family per se. I can do a whole video about found family, but in this particular instance, sometimes you and your family have drastically different viewpoints. Sometimes you and some of the friends you went to college with have drastically different viewpoints. I don't even go on Facebook anymore because that comment section is just a room that I don't want to be in. And so when I think about framing my year, instead of focusing on where I don't want to be and who I don't want to be around, it is worth considering, what is the energy that I want? Who do I want to surround myself with? What are the kinds of ideas? What is the kind of energy that I want to place myself in that keeps me out of survival and allows me to grow, thrive, and ground myself in a place of integrity? So this brings me to the first pillar of the bar, THEBAR. The T stands for talking. A lot of us have forgotten how to have conversations. So much of our discourse is this: it's on your phone, you're scrolling, you're commenting. I ran to the comments just to see what people had to say. And while that can be entertaining and hysterical sometimes, it is important to learn how to engage heart to heart, person to person, voice to voice. Okay, science has demonstrated that the human voice actually creates neural changes. The human voice can have a very calming effect, in the same way that when people are yelling at you, it creates a neural effect. In the same way, when people can have civilized conversation, and it doesn't mean that we have to agree. So it doesn't mean that every room you enter is one of agreement. It doesn't mean that every room you enter must be an echo chamber where everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid and saying, the same things and group think. It's not that, but it is asking questions like, hold on, I got my notes here. What is allowed to be said? In other words, can you walk into a room and express yourself freely? Can you say your truth? And if you can't, is that a room that you want to be in? Who gets interrupted? So it's really interesting. To a good degree, I try to talk peripherally about politics and not like specific incidents, because that's just not helpful. But this past year, a journalist was asking a question of someone in political power, and rather than answer the question, the response was, "Quiet, piggy." So when you think about the rooms that you are in, who gets interrupted? Who gets to ask questions? Who gets to engage meaningfully, and who gets shut down? And so when you're thinking about the rooms that you want to be in, and who gets to do the talking, that's something that you need to consider. Something else that you want to consider is, who has to soften themselves in order to belong? So in other words, when I go into this room, do I have to shrink? Do I have to be quiet? Do I have to perform like, oh, you? Or, when certain jokes get made, do I have to act like, I have to go along to get along? Otherwise, I'm being a problem. Otherwise, I'm being a biatch. Otherwise, I'm being recalcitrant, or I'm being a wet blanket, So do I have to soften? Do I have to shrink, in order to be in this room? And if I do, is this a room that I want to be in? There is a very famous and controversial song in the Hamilton musical talking about the room where it happens. And I think that that is something to think about, like when certain conversations are being had, when certain decisions are being made. What rooms do you want to be in, where you want to have a voice, where you want to give some consideration, where you want to, give a different point of view or a vantage point? All of that is wrapped up in the ability to talk and voice. And what I have found in 2025 is that when I found myself at the height of frustration, when I found myself getting angry, because there were certainly moments where I was angry, I was grateful to have people that I could have a physical, literal conversation with that allowed me to express my viewpoints, but also moments where I was allowed, where I was gifted the ability to listen, because that's what conversation is. It's not just me dumping all of my stuff, and it's not just you dumping all of your stuff, but it's also the gift of being heard. And sometimes emotions can blind you from possibilities. Sometimes emotions can blind you from other perspectives. And so when you think about how you're going to elevate your life, it is important to get to conversation. And it is important to, in those conversations, allow people to make mistakes, allow people to disagree, allow people to be educated, because we also live in this very zero sum game dynamic where as soon as somebody says something you don't agree with, you're canceled, you're done, you are beyond redemption. And that is incredibly unhealthy as well. And so when you're talking about the rooms that you want to be in, all of those points are worthy of consideration. Here are three things you need to be looking at that indicate this is probably not my room. These are probably not my people. Sign number one that you're in the wrong room is when you have to chronically self edit. Okay. So when you have to explain and over explain, and no, what I meant is, or what I'm trying to say is, no, like, okay, how can I say it? So, like, what I mean, okay, you know what? When you have to do all of that, there's not a conversation to be had. There is no understanding to be reached. When you have to feel like you have to dot every I and cross every T, and it doesn't mean that you are looking for rooms where you can be completely unfiltered, because that's not always appropriate. That's not always appropriate. But when you have to chronically self-edit, when you are in a room where and the people that you are talking to or engaging with are assuming bad faith, okay? When they're assuming that you are coming from the wrong direction. This is something that comes up actually, sidebar free advice in relationship coaching and counseling, is that a lot of couples that argue end up escalating the argument because they feel like they are fighting each other. You're telling me that I'm wrong, and you are judging me, and you are shaming me, and you are saying bad dog to me. When it's really not that, it's really not that. It is a healthier approach to say, instead of me against you, it is us against the problem, okay? And so when people, there's a difference between what is said and what is heard. Okay. So sometimes people hear things that are not said. And so if you find yourself in a room where you constantly have to explain, over explain, and see what I had meant was, that's not your room. Another sign that you're in the wrong room is when your nervous system is dysregulated. Every room has energy. Do you notice that? If you walk into an elementary school, it has a vibe. And that vibe can be sunny and bright and learning and creative, and like joy happens here. And then you walk into some schools and it's like East Side High, free Mr. Clark. Like, dang, like, is this prison? I, true story. When my daughter was, we were in between high schools, right? So she had just completed eighth grade, and it was this local free academy and the private school that she had been attending. And so I was like, of course, I was like, okay, let's look at team free because it was a very highly ranked school. The students were doing very well. It was, all the things. And there was testing required to get into the school as part of the admissions process. When I took her to that school for testing and we had to walk through metal detectors, I was like, oh no. Oh hell no. Like, I mean, I let her take the test, but I knew before she finished, I was like, this is the energy. Like, you have to pay attention to what your body is doing. We're going to talk about somatic awareness. That's part of the bar. That's the B in the bar. But we're going to talk about somatic awareness. But when you enter certain rooms and all of a sudden you feel tight or you feel tense or you feel like you in fight, flight, fawn, freeze, exit, stage left. That's not your room. And number three, when you feel like you have to perform instead of participate. So when you feel like you have to do a dance, when you feel like you have to lick boots, when you feel like you have to polish apples, when you feel like you have to smile, when you want to frown, when you feel like you can't be your authentic self, that's not your room. And you'd be surprised how many people live their lives that way. But you don't have to live that way. You really don't. This comes up, as I mentioned, like during the holidays. Not everybody has this healthy, happy, matching pajamas type of family. Some people can only take their family in small doses, and some people really send themselves through the mental ringer like, oh my gosh, I gotta pack a bag and I gotta go and spend 3 or 4 days with these people. You don't have to do that. You don't have to suck it up and soldier on. You can say, hey guys, I'm not going to make it this year. Merry Christmas to you all and to all a good night. Like, you can establish boundaries. You can remove yourself from rooms where you don't feel comfortable and you don't have to apologize for it. So, where I would like to end or land this plane so that we don't get too long here is talking is agency. One of the things about being a child versus being an adult is that when you are a child, you have no agency. You're stuck. You gotta you gotta roll with the punches, okay? And you don't have a lot of power. You don't have a lot of resources. You are kind of at where you're at. But when you become an adult, you have agency, you have choice, you have resources available to you that were not available to you when you were young. And so talking is agency. Use your voice, use your words to be able to articulate yourself in a way where you don't feel defensive, to articulate yourself in a way where you can say, I'm not comfortable, to articulate yourself in a way where you can just connect and catch up. And that's another thing. Like, a lot of times people think they know what's happening with their friends, but then you ask them, so when was the last time you talked to them? Oh, I just sent a text. Look, millennials and Gen Zers and Gen Alphas, everything can't be text, okay? Everything cannot be this, okay? Because a lot of nuance, a lot of tone, a lot of inflection gets lost in this, okay? And so I think it is worth, actually, I don't think, I know scientifically it is worth rebuilding the muscle of talk and agency and using that talk and agency to either create rooms that you want to be in or to discover rooms or to participate in rooms. And that for me is a more expansive experience than this business or shrinking back. I recently attended a Jeffersonian dinner. I know that sounds so fancy, but there is a third space in Chicago called Kibitz Nest. It's like a bookstore bookstore slash bar slash game room. There's no Wi-Fi. They're very intentional and upfront about that. They're like, this is not the place for you to sit here and scroll. This is a place where you can play board games. This is a place where you can have conversations. This is a place where you can read books. This is a place where you can have a few drinks, a few bites, a few nibbles. And this is a place where you can just be and engage in analog activities. But you are not going to come here and be doing this business. And they hosted a Jeffersonian dinner. And a Jeffersonian dinner is a salon style conversation where there's basically one or two questions on the table. It's one question, so no side chats. And you sit at these tables and you go through the questions. And it's like every person gets an opportunity to talk. Every person gets an opportunity to engage. There's no phones. And I was like, I love the idea of this. This is not, a new concept. This is what they used to do back in the 1700s. And we have gotten away from being able to sit with people and not be distracted and not feel the impulse to reach for a phone. And so look for rooms where conversations are happening, where you can talk to other people and listen and learn and share. And doing so is an elevated experience. It's much more elevated than this kind of sitting back, scrolling through, switching the channel. What are we doing? That sort of thing. Like, your brain wants more. Your brain needs more. Your brain can do more. Your brain is craving stimulation and engagement in ways that are not this algorithmic experience that manipulates your dopamine and basically turns you into an addict of social media and scrolling. And so if you are looking to come out of that, then I hope that this was helpful to you. So that's going to do it for this part of the series. The next episode, we're going to be talking about hobbies. Um, and how that maps to the framework. So if you want to learn more about this, I actually created a guidebook. So it's called The Bar. It's a guidebook. I will leave that link down in the description and you can check it out at your leisure. And there's even a promo code so you can get a discount off of it. But a lot of people actually bought the guidebook at the start of the year because they wanted to slow board into the year. They were like, look, 2025 was a lot and my nervous system needs some grounding. I need to really take stock of how I feel and what I want before feeling the pressure of having to do more and produce more. So if you are interested in that, I will leave that link down in the description. And if you're not already, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and I will see you guys in part 2. Bye.